The Packers weren't totally crushed by the Bills. The Texans' quarterback is Davis Mills. There were trades galore, but we wanted more, because there were more roles to be filled. Welcome to the Mish. All right, everybody. We have passed the NFL trade deadline. Once again, Packers didn't really do anything. But we should just be used to that by this point. There were lots of other trades. Chase Claypool to the Bears, which apparently the Packers were in on. Jeff Wilson went to Miami. Who else? TJ Hawkinson went to Minnesota. So, lots of movement. Bradley Chubb went from Denver to Miami as well, I believe, which is how Denver got Chase Edmonds, I believe. Lots of movement, but, none from the Packers. But just a little reminder, the trade deadline in our league is week 11. Currently, we are in week 9. And so we have just a few more weeks until the trade deadline. I'm sure there'll be some teams, including myself, that are going to be selling, and some teams that are not me that will be buying. So it should be interesting to see how many more trades we get into, or we get by then. Before we dive into the trades from this past week, I will crack my beer. We've got ourselves just a plain old Busch, meant to buy Busch Light, but didn't read close enough, and so we got ourselves a Busch, which, it's basically the same thing, so, obviously I'll still drink it, so I'm not that upset about it. So, so 2 trades, both, again, quick succession of each other. The first one was, oh boy, hold on. Yeah, so there were 2 trades, like I just said. I have to use the napkin, otherwise I'll be wet. Adam traded Khalil Herbert to Sam for Chris Godwin. Adam's in a pretty good spot right now, and he just got a little bit of a better spot. Definitely didn't need Khalil Herbert with the running backs that he has, and now he's got Chris Godwin to plug into one of his wide receiver spots, so that's real nice. And Sam evidently needed a running back. Can't quite remember who's on your team. Melvin Blackshear you had last week starting. So Eckler, very good player, obviously coming back from bye this week for you. But everyone always needs a running back. I definitely think this benefits Adam more. I do think Sam, you probably could have gotten a bit more for Chris Godwin. Chris Godwin's obviously a very good player. Khalil Herbert, nothing against him. He's been playing great lately, but I just think Godwin is a bit of a higher tier than Herbert. Obviously, if Montgomery goes down, then Khalil Herbert will just skyrocket. But for now, I would say both teams probably benefit a little bit, but one more so than the other. And then T-Corn traded Alexander Madison and Michael Pittman to Colin for Darrell Henderson and Jacoby Myers. So I don't remember who has not Alexander Madison, but who has the other guy from that team, Dalvin Cook. Let's see, Dalvin. He's on Michael's team, so nothing to do with the handcuff there. But if you're just looking at this face value, between Madison and Henderson, I don't know, honestly, who would really want more. I'd probably say Henderson, just because he's the presumed starter, whereas Madison's obviously the backup. Obviously, if Dalvin goes down, then he would be my pick of running back between the two of them. But as the time being, I'd pick Madison. And then Pittman has been not very good lately. He's not as good as a lot of people were hoping he would be this year. and thinking he would be this year. And Jacoby Myers has been decent, if I recall correctly. So, that's pretty close, I would say. Let's see, for the season, Jacoby's got 95 points on the season, and Pittman's got 107, so just slightly better Pittman does. That's probably pretty even. I would say it's a pretty sideways trade. Obviously, things can change as the time goes on. Do like Pittman's upside better than Myers. And like I said, all about if Dalvin goes down, then obviously it's Madison. And Darrell Henderson has had success as the running back over there in Los Angeles. So, this is pretty sideways, but it could go either way depending on how things break for the given players. So that are the trades, and I, again, assume we'll have quite a bit more over the next couple weeks as we near that trade deadline. So we'll quickly now dive into last week's matchups. First up, me versus Derek, pretty close. I had a bit of hope that I could get my second win on the season. 'Twas not to be. Had some pretty good performances. Brandon Ayuk was very good for me, 20.1 points from him. And, of course, Jalen Hurts, 28.4. Other than that, kind of disappointing from the rest of my team. Bob Tunyon, 8.5, so not too bad from him. But, just kind of a lot of underperforming players. For me, over on Derek's side, though, Kirk Cousins did pretty well, 22.48. Obviously, Stephon Diggs, very good, 21.8 from him. Romeo Doubs with that very nice touchdown, 16.2, and Devin Duvernay, 16.4. And the Eagles defense, goodness gracious, so good, 16.75. So, in the end, Derek got the win, 118.03 to 105.15. Next up, we will go with Bruce versus State Farm. This one was much higher scoring than my matchup with Derek, but it was not quite as close. Decent performances all around. The lowest scoring players on State's team scored 7, and that's the Bills defense and Christian Kirk, and the rest of them were double digits, so very good stuff. We'll just point out a few. Jalen Waddle, 30.6 from him. Very nice stuff. Dalton, Andy, that is 17.16, so not too bad from him. 18.3 from Mike Evans. Dalton Schultz, 13.4, so not too bad. And the newly acquired Najee Harris, 11.96. Not terrible, but obviously hoping for a bit better. Over on Bruce's side, just even better stuff. Josh Allen, a measly 19.62, so that's a bit under his average. Again, Nick Chubb just dominating, 25.4, 33.7 from Tony Pollard, 31.5 from Tyreek Hill. So very good stuff there. And then the Jets defense had 16 points. In the end, Bruce got the dub, 160.56 to 134.04. And believe it or not, those two teams were neither of the highest scoring teams on the week. In fact, we had a couple teams score higher than Bruce there did. So we'll get to those teams in a second, though. Adam versus Caleb is our next matchup. This one, I believe, is the closest one of the week. A difference of just under 2 points. So very, very close stuff. And it came down to that Halloween Monday night game with multiple players playing. Over on Caleb's side, some pretty decent performances. Alvin Kamara, 42.8 points. Very, very good stuff from him. You did play Noah Brown, Caleb. It looked like he did not play this past week. So hopefully, maybe he doesn't play this week and you'll play someone else. Las Vegas defense, though, not very good for you, Caleb. -1, which could have come back to bite you. But spoiler alert, you got that victory. Adam's team, Joe Burrow and Joe Mixon playing on that Monday night. Those are the only guys played for that Monday night. Joe only 13.48. Well, Joe Burrow only 13.48, and Joe Mixon 12.9. Not too great. AJ Brown, though, did very good. 39.6 points from him. The rest just kind of average. This one was a bit lower scoring. In the end, Caleb got the victory, 115.44 to 113.48. Moving on to Michael versus Brian. Bit higher scoring for one of the teams and a little bit lower scoring for the other team. Tom Brady, 17.1. So not too great from him. Dalvin, though, very good stuff. And then Ramondre Stevenson, also very good stuff. Dalvin got 25.1 and Stevenson got 21.3. So pretty solid duo there. However, not very good duo between Devontae Adams and Cortland Sutton. Just the two of them scoring 3.5 points between the two of them. So not great at all. Amon-Ra did pretty good, 13.9 from him. And one of the better scoring players on your team, Michael, the Patriots defense, 11 points. So not super great stuff. And it was a slightly better on Brian's side, 17.38 from Matthew Stafford, 35.8 from Derrick Henry, very good stuff, 16.6 from Terry McLaurin, and 9.25 from your defense in Denver. So both defenses did pretty well. In the end, Brian got the victory, 131.73 to 109.4, which will bring us on to T-Corn versus Fiala. Pretty solid performances all around. This was probably the highest scoring matchup of the week, if you take the total of the 2 teams. T-Corn, Taylor Heineke, 23.06, 22.6 from Jamal Williams, 15.2 from Saquon. So very good stuff. CeeDee Lamb, 18.8. Dallas Goedert, 12.4. 23.1 from Amari Cooper. And then not too bad, 6.5 from the Colts defense. So very good stuff over on T-Corn's side. However, Fiala was really packing this week, so he went off. 21.82 from Lamar Jackson, 14.3 DeAndre Swift. 25.2 from Travis Etienne, 33.9 from Hopkins, 19 from Kyle Pitts. So he finally is doing some good stuff. 20.7 from Gibson, 17.5 from Tyler Algier, and 18 points from the Seattle Seahawks defense. So Fiala kind of destroyed T-Corn despite T-Corn scoring a lot of points. It was 177.72 to 141.96. And believe it or not, Fiala didn't even have the highest score of the week, but we will get to them in a second. The second to last matchup of this past week was Abby versus Colin. One of the lower scoring matchups of the week. 2.94 only from Derek Carr. Pretty solid from Aaron Jones. He's been doing very well despite the Packers' woes. Currently the running back 9 on the season, so hopefully he can keep it up. Mark Ingram only 1.2, 1.3 from Sammy Watkins. At least they weren't George Pickens, who got 0 points. Cooper Kupp, of course, did 22.9. Very good stuff. A little hurt maybe at the end there, so we'll see how he goes moving forward. Former Detroit Lion T.J. Hawkinson, 11 points, and Dallas Cowboys defense, again, being great, 14.25. Over on Colin's side, Kyler Murray, very good, 25.64, so good stuff from him. 12.9 from George Kittle, so pretty good stuff from him as well. Allen Robinson finally starting to get things together, maybe. 10.4 from him. Jacoby Myers, 21 points. So pretty good stuff. Colin got the victory, 107.99 to 86.69. And before we get to this last matchup, I'm going to take a quick sip of beer. And, yeah. All right, the matchup we've all been waiting for. Sam versus Lincoln. So, over on Sam's side, we had some pretty good scores. Tua Tagovailoa, 29.18, very good stuff. Melvin Gordon, not too bad, 14.2. 13.9 from T. Higgins, probably hoping for a bit more from him. Chris Godwin got 13.5, 12.8 from Mike Gesicki, 12.8 from Tyler Boyd, so pretty good stuff from him, and 12.7 from Adam Thielen. But how did Lincoln's team do? Well, 26.4 from Dak Prescott, 39.26 from Christian McCaffrey, 1 passing, 1 rushing, and 1 receiving touchdown from him. Going to be good over there in San Fran. 12.9 from Latavius Murray, 27.5 from DJ Moore, 18.3 from Jerry Jeudy, 6.3 from Mark Andrews. He did get hurt, but, still provided some points. Garrett Wilson, 17.5, 31.8 from Deonta Foreman, and 11 points from the Tennessee Titans defense. Lincoln absolutely blew Sam out of the water, 190.96 to 115.93. And, obviously, Lincoln was the highest scoring team on the week. So, the power rankings going into week 9 are, I'm, reclaiming my spot back in 14th place. 13, we've got Caleb. 12, Fiala. 11, Derek. 10, Colin. Sam is at 9. Michael, 8. Lincoln, 7. Abby, 6, T-Corn, 5. State Farm, 4. Brian, 3. 2, we got Adam and Bruce, number 1. And, you guys like those time checks. Actually, I have had 0 feedback on the time checks, so I don't know if you like the time checks, but currently it is 4:03 p.m. on Wednesday, November 2nd. So very good stuff. Which will bring us on to this week's matchups. First, me versus Sam. Melvin Gordon for Sam is on bye, and I do have a number of players on bye. Including Brandon Ayuk, probably my most consistent player that I've had since the start, and Wandale Robinson. So just a couple players, But we still have some good players playing. Obviously, I've got Jalen Hurts. He's very good. Like him quite a bit. Hoping he can play a lot. Super good this week. And we got my Houston boys who were down last week. Brandon Cooks almost traded to Dallas from what I heard. That would have been amazing for me. I would have really liked that. But it's all right. He can stay on Houston. For me, it's pretty much the same old lineup. Over for Sam here, we've got, again, pretty much the same old lineup. Austin Eckler's back there, and so is Travis Kelce. So I'm sure that's really nice for you. In the end, I am going to be picking Sam because do I even have a chance anymore? I'm technically not out of. I'm technically still alive in the for playoffs. There's a lot of 4-4 teams right now, and I'm only 3 wins away from having 4 wins. So stranger things have happened. Next up, we've got Colin versus Bruce. At the moment, Bruce does not have a defense plugged in. Obviously, he will be getting one by the time matchups start. He also is down Nick Chubb and Tony Pollard and Greg Dulcich via bye, so that's not great for him. Over on Colin's side, George Kittle, Donovan Peoples-Jones, Tevin Coleman, and Deshaun Watson, but he's suspended. But those players are also on bye for Colin's side. We've got very good quarterbacks, Josh Allen and Kyler Murray. Couple solid running backs, Gus and Brian Robinson. We'll see if they can perform a bit better than they have been lately. And if Gus even plays this week, dealing with his injury. Speaking of dealing with injury, Jonathan Taylor, again injured. We'll see if he can suit up this weekend. If not, some guy named Deion Jackson might get that start. And whose team is he on? I don't know, but we'll see how well that works out. Another Colt, newly acquired Michael Pittman. We'll see how well he can do. Chase Claypool, newly acquired by the Bears in Chicago now, so we'll see how a change of scenery can work for him. And, pretty straightforward from there on out. I will be picking Bruce in this matchup. And I do not think it will be as close of a matchup as it currently appears. Moving us on to Caleb versus Derek. the players on by, we've got Deontay Johnson and Jimmy Garoppolo for Derek. Technically, you've got Odell Beckham on by, but he's not on a team, so he's on a perpetual bye. I said that weird, but Daniel Jones, your quarterback or your backup quarterback for Caleb, is on by, and then you've got a myriad of injured players: Jamar Chase, Mike Williams, and James Conner. So that's really been a bummer for you. But newly acquired from Buffalo or for Buffalo is Nyheim Hines, so we'll see how well he can do in that new, very much better offense than he was currently in. From there on out, it's pretty straightforward. Tyler Lockett's looking a bit more healthy this week than he did last week, so we'll see how well he can do, with that injury. Noah Brown in your lineup for you, Caleb, is on by, so I'm sure you'll probably want to plug in someone else, probably Joshua Palmer. Just give him a bit of free advice, if you will. I do think that Derek will be winning this matchup, and I don't think it will be all that close. Moving us on to Michael versus Adam. We got a couple defenses on by, San Francisco and Cleveland. And then over on Michael's side, we've got Cortland Sutton and Kareem Hunt as well on by. Probably we're hoping for Kareem to get traded somewhere like Buffalo or Los Angeles Rams, but that never happened. So, and then Pat Frymuth over for Adam is also on by. Other than that, pretty straightforward. Alan Lazard, we'll see if he can come back and play for you, Adam, as he's been out dealing with injury. And Devontae Adams, not great week. Could have had something to do with the flu last week that he had going into that game, so we'll see how well. And then we'll see how well Devin Singletary does now that Nyheim Hines is in town. I will be picking Adam in this matchup, and just like the previous one, I do not think this one will be as close as it currently appears. Which brings us on to Abby versus Lincoln. Got a decent amount of buys. First up over on Abby's side, Dallas defense, George Pickens, and the oh-so-great Deebo Samuel. Missed him last week with injury, and now he's going to be on bye. So hopefully when he comes back, he's healthy for you. And then over on Lincoln's side, we've got Jerry Jeudy, Christian McCaffrey, Latavius Murray, and Dak Prescott. So quite a few players missing there. Obviously, the big one is Christian McCaffrey. But, still some decent players in the lineup. Deonta Foreman did great last week, so we'll see if he does it again this week. Jeff Wilson, newly acquired by Miami. We'll see how well he can do over there with the change of scenery. Mark Andrews dealing with a bit of injury, so we'll see how well he can do. And newly acquired for, like I said, mentioned before, the Minnesota Vikings tight end TJ Hawkinson over there for Abby. Cooper Kupp, mentioned this also before, dealing with injury at the moment, so we'll see if he can suit up and play well. And Caleb Huntley has been playing pretty well the last, I guess not really. Sometimes I just say things hoping it to be true, but he's actually not doing that great. So, despite all that, I did pick Abby, and I do think it's going to be close. This bi-apocalypse is kind of getting both of these teams a bit equally, so you could argue maybe it's getting Lincoln a bit more, but that's nothing compared to the bi-apocalypse that T-Corn is facing as he goes up against Brian in this next matchup. We've got CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper, Chase Edmonds, and Saquon Barkley, all on bye for T-Corn. So that's quite a few heavy hitters. And then over for Brian, the only player that you have on bye is the Denver defense, which, you can easily overcome by picking up the Rams defense, which you did. But we still do have some solid players in this matchup for both teams. Justin Herbert, the young blood, very good quarterback. And Aaron Rodgers also has long hair and has been pretty good in the past. Going up against Detroit, Rodgers is, and so hopefully he does well. Speaking of Detroit, we've got Jamal Williams in there at running back for T-Corn, and Darrell Henderson as well. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be tough sledding out there for T-Corn. Lots of guys starting that you probably would rather not start, especially since Brian does have some decent players like Derrick Henry, very good stuff from him, Chris Olave, Justin Jefferson, and lately Terry McLaurin and Ken Walker have been playing pretty well. So in the end, I do think it's going to be Brian. I think T-Corn, there's just too much for you to overcome in terms of your players on bye this week. So it's going to be a bit of a tough matchup for you. And on to the final matchup of the week. We've got Fiala versus State Farm. Very good quarterbacks here. Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson. Both of them are playing against each other in this matchup, not against each other in the NFL. But, yeah. And then there's also some pretty solid running backs. Leonard Fournette and Miles Sanders over there for State, and DeAndre Swift and Travis Etienne for Fiala. So, very good stuff. Also, very good receivers. Devonta Smith and DeAndre Hopkins for Fiala. And Jalen Waddle and Mike Evans. Both guys I have in a different league where it's literally touchdowns only. So that's kind of a cool thing. But yeah, I have both of those guys in that league. And you have them both in this league. So, and then he's also got over there for y'all for Kyle Pitts, DK Metcalf, Keenan Allen, and the Seattle defense. And then to round out State Farm's team, we've got Christian Kirk, Kadarius Toney, the Buffalo Bills defense, you might have mentioned. Or realized I did not mention a tight end. That's because State Farm's tight end is Dalton Schultz, and he's currently on bye. And Najee Harris is also on bye for him. And just since we're here, Fiala, Michael Gallup is on bye for him. But yeah, State's going to need to pick up a tight end. But despite him still needing a tight end, I do not think that this will be a close matchup. I think that Fiala is going to blow State Farm out of the water. And, yeah, it's not going to be close at all, I believe. So that'll do it for this week's episode of the Mishpo. So, yeah, I guess... Oh, and I guess you'll probably notice it. But, yeah, boy, I forgot to clear space again on his phone. And we did run out of space, so there was a weird cut in the video. It's whatever. Hopefully I'll remember to not have the space cleared by next week. So yeah, with that, thank you, and thank you. Alrighty, we're going to flip this on Bruce. Solid thud, but not a landing.